So in Maya and most programs, you have different modes of using your manipulator in. So the two main ones are world mode and object mode. And you can switch them. The shortcut is Control Shift, right click, and here are all the different modes. So object, world, those are the main two that we like to use as animators. World mode essentially sets your manipulator to match the world axis, which you can see in the bottom left corner. Y is up, X is forward, Z is forward, X is side to side. If you Control Shift right click and hold, you can switch it to object mode, and object mode lines up with whatever you have selected. So for example, if I have a cube here, and let's shape it so that we have a little bit more of a shape there, you'll see that right now we are in object mode. If I rotate the object, the manipulator lines up with the object. The Y is pointing to the top there, which is very good if I want to have this kind of, let's say this is a rocket ship and I want it to fly through space. Well, I can just rotate it wherever I want it to go and it goes in that direction. Perfect. If I set it to world mode, that becomes much harder because I have to like, oh no, move it over. No, now over to the side, forward, back. It gets to be a pain when you are trying to move it in a straight line. If you switch it to object mode, much easier. Now there are times when you want the opposite, where maybe I want this object to sit on his head right on the corner. So we want that corner, boop, right on his head. But now I want to move it back just a little bit. So it's maybe resting right in the middle of his head. Well, if I'm using the manipulator here, no, that's not quite right. Move it up. Oh, now it's moving to the side. It gets very annoying. So Control Shift right click, switch it to world mode. Beep, beep, done. And the same goes with your rotations. You have object mode, which your rotation manipulator lines up with your object, which is very nice. But let's say we want this object to now spin on the corner on top of his head. How do you do that? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Well, I can switch it to world mode. Now it spins from there. Don't have to worry about realigning things. In the rotations, you also have what's called gimbal mode, which shows you your true rotations. I honestly don't use this very much. There's going to be times when it's helpful, but overall I just use object and world mode. The main thing with gimbal mode is it helps to show you when you get gimbal lock, which is when the two the two axes line up. And won't this give weird rotations? In the in-betweens, you might get some odd rotations, but that's what breakdowns are for. And honestly, that goes with anything. When you're rotating things, especially at more extreme angles, you just need more breakdowns, or you need to reset the pivot points or manipulators setup constraints. But usually a few more breakdowns will help the problem. So that's basic switching of manipulators. It's very nice. And again, it's just Control Shift, right click, object and world right there. You also have symmetry options. That's usually for when you're doing modeling. The other thing you can do, and this is really helpful, is let's say I had a cube here, and we'll make it really long. We've got this object, it's a ramp. And we've got another cube over here. And we needed to sit here, and we're not going to rotate it or anything. But we needed to sit here and then slide up the ramp. Just go from here, slide straight up. Now, how do we do that? Well, world mode isn't going to help, and object mode isn't going to help. So right now we're in world mode, and there's no direction that goes up this ramp. Okay, object mode doesn't make a difference because the object doesn't line up with the ramp. So what do we do? Well, I can hold Control Shift right click, and I can set this to an axis. So I can go to axis, and I'm going to go to custom, and I'm going to set it to either an object, or I could even set it to an edge. So I'm going to go set to object, and I'm going to click this object here. Now my manipulator has lined up to that object, and I can just take my cube and go whoop, right up. Done. Right there. Nice and easy. If we had another object, so maybe it gets, duplicate this, and now it has to change directions. I can animate this going up here, and then we'll Control Shift right click, axis, custom, set to object. We'll select the next object. Ooh, right there. So now we get that. Now it's going to interpolate a little weird because we don't have linear keys turned on. So it's going to round that corner a little bit. But you can see very quickly it follows that right down. Seems like this would cut down on unnecessary constraints. It wouldn't replace constraints. It would simplify just moving an object. That's really what it is. Instead of having to like move it in 3 different axes at once. So for example, if we were still in world mode and I wanted to move it back into this corner here, I would have to just move it across and then move my camera, realign it, do that, move it back up. So it wouldn't replace a constraint per se, but it would make it quicker to move things into place. If I had a situation like this and I really wanted to stick onto these objects, especially if these objects were also spinning, then you'd have to have a constraint anyway.